Okay, how's it going? So, with the recent box office failures of Superman and Fantastic Four, accept it. If you're out there and you're sitting there like, they didn't fail, Superman made 600 million. They failed. Both of them failed miserably, and the outlook is superhero movies are on their way out. In reality, all reality. If you're an MCU fan or a James Gunn fan for some reason, I hate to break it to you, but your window of time is closing when it comes to enjoying these films because they're not going to be around much longer in the big grandiose way that you're used to seeing them with these 300 400 million dollar budgets. Those days are dwindling. So I wanted to make this video where I just go through all my superhero movies, the ones that I enjoy from. I think all of these are pre. I might have one in the 2020s, one, and even then, I'm kind of on the fence with it. So we'll get into it. I'll just talk a little bit about the ones that I enjoy, obviously, but I don't know why. I just kind of wanted to make this video. I don't really talk about superhero stuff very often, so I kind of just wanted to do it. I don't know what pile to start with. We'll start with this one. The Amazing Spider-Man 2. The definition of a guilty pleasure. I'm aware that there's a lot of problems with this movie. A lot. But this was the first time Spider-Man looked like Spider-Man from the comics with this suit. This was the best Spider-Man suit ever. Probably still is the best one, because we know that Tom Holland's weren't very nice. I love the chemistry between him and Emma Stone. And that kind of leads into the first Amazing Spider-Man, which I don't know if this is worse or not. To me, this is worse, and this is the one I prefer the least. At least the second one's got some fun action, and this to me is just, this is probably the worst Spider-Man of the first five, and I even felt it when I walked out of the theater when I was like 11 years old. I was like, I don't know, they rebooted this, like, did you really need to have this new take on it when you could have just put another Tobey Maguire movie out there? I don't know. Fantastic Four 2005. It's not a great movie, but come on, we all grew up watching this, and that scene where the Thing's wife puts her ring down on the bridge, and he's just sitting there, like, in tears while being a rock man. That scene hits. That scene really hits. And the cast is really good. Chris Evans was really good. He was really good as Johnny Storm, and Jessica Alba. That's all I can say. But fun guilty pleasure. Hellboy 2. I genuinely think this is a pretty decent film. I'm kind of sad we never got a third one because they leave me on a cliffhanger of them having children at the end of this. So I was always curious, like, is Hellboy going to have two little Hellboys? Because I think it was twins. So, kind of shitty. But at the same time, enjoy this movie. It's got some really good action visuals, and it leads into the first Hellboy. Ignore Ghost Rider. I can't even tell you that I enjoy it. It's just so bad that I can't even really sit there and rewatch it. I've seen it twice in my life, and I don't plan on watching it anytime soon. But the first Hellboy, I genuinely enjoy this movie. I've seen it 4 or 5 times. And again, I'm just kind of sad that we never got the finality to that character with Ron Perlman. Daredevil with Ben Affleck. I grew up watching this all the time. This was one of those movies that I just, for some reason, always put in. And I had the DVD when I was a kid, and then I upgraded to the unrated DVD. And it was one of the first set of tits I saw in a movie. I was probably 5, and I was like, what? I was at my grandma's, and she just didn't care. She was so out of it. It's one of those memories that'll never leave me. But this was a fun 2000s movie, and it gave us that amazing song that we all know. Bring me to life. It's still on the radio all the time, and I just think of the scene where they're both training and setting up for their final battle. The Punisher with Thomas Jane. This is my slew of 2000s like Marvel movies that aren't great, but I have a good time with this until he does that burnout in the parking lot, and it leaves a Punisher skull. It's like, oh, that's a little too on the nose, isn't it? But the fight scene with him and Kevin Nash is just, we all know how memorable that is. He stabbed him for real. It's one of those cool little movie tidbits that every time I watch it, I'm like, I do my, what's his face from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, when he's telling Cliff to pay attention. It's the same sort of thing. Blade Trinity, the worst of the Blade movies yet. I have a guilty pleasure affinity did with this one. I keep saying that, but this really is my section of I'm aware this isn't great, but it's still fun and entertaining. And Wesley Snipes didn't want to be in this movie. You can tell, and even at the end where his eyes open up, they had to CGI his eyes because he refused to open them for the director. It's funny shit like that where I almost enjoy it more because of how hard to work with Wesley Snipes was. He's just one of the actors I'll give a pass because he seems cool, but for the most part, I can see why he's a douchebag to most people. And Ryan Reynolds and him both have like the biggest egos, so all the behind the scenes stuff you hear, it's just like what a mess that would have been to work on. But it's a fun movie to watch. Jessica Biel's fun to look at. We all know that. And Triple H is in this, so who the fuck doesn't want to see Triple H give? I'm pretty sure he gives a spine buster. Blade 2. It's the one I remember the least, but I really enjoyed the dark nature of this one, where it's got like the vampires that kill vampires. I really enjoy that whole dark take, but also Norman Reedus being in this was so weird to me when I watched it again as an adult. I was like, what is Daryl doing in this? And then he ends up being a informant for the vampires. It's a good movie. Good movie. But for me, the best Blade was always the first one, Deacon Frost. I love this fucking movie, man. I watch this all the time. This is one of those I always have on, even now, around Halloween time. Every year I put this in. The rave song at the beginning is stuck in my head forever. The whole rave scene, really, the whole luring to the bloodbath from the hot chick, it's just freaky to me. You think you're getting laid that night, but really you just end up being part of the 4-course meal for the vampires. But you got to see Blade at least once. Dread. They're rebooting this, and I don't know why. I don't even love this movie, but you have Carl Urban sitting right there, and he's playing Johnny Cage, and he's still doing all this badass shit in his early 50s. Why would you not have him play Dredd again? He was really good as Dredd. I just thought the movie itself wasn't that great or rewatchable. Everybody online loves it, but I don't love the, what is the character's name that he's working with in the movie, the girl, Anderson. I don't really love her. She's kind of, eh. But the whole slow-mo thing was kind of cool. The first Kick-Ass, and the only Kick-Ass to me, because the second one, I own it somewhere, and it's somewhere in this pile, but it's so bad. It's so bad, and I wouldn't have owned it if I didn't already see it. I had to buy it to see it, and it was just a mess. But this first one, it's a lot of fun. I really like Aaron Taylor Johnson for some reason, and if he was James Bond, I would be one of the least upset people. I know he's smaller, and that was my biggest gripe with Daniel Craig, but I just buy him as an actor. Really, it was Bullet Train, funnily enough, that sold me on him. I was like, you know what? He's fucking hilarious in this movie. And not only hilarious, but he just has, like, a charisma about him. So, seeing him as a teenager, it was kind of weird, but I enjoy him as an actor. Split. I saw this in the movie theaters 2 or 3 times. I think it was 3 times. I just kept bringing different people back to see it because I enjoyed it so much. I had never seen Unbreakable before, so the twist, unfortunately, didn't have the same effect on me as it did with everybody else, but I knew what it was referencing. I knew what Unbreakable was. I had watched videos. I used to watch Mojo a lot, and I knew what Unbreakable was, but I wasn't as cultured in terms of my film knowledge. So seeing this again after watching Unbreakable, it just hits so hard. This movie's so fucking good. Probably my favorite Shyamalan movie. And James McAvoy. Hi, I'm Hedwig. Can I have a hot dog? That's one of the best performances ever. Unbreakable, speaking of the devil. What a great movie. Imagine being Superman and not knowing it. That's basically what this movie is. Fucking awesome. And the weightlifting scene with the paint cans. One of my favorite movie scenes ever. It just keeps putting more weight on it. And it's like, holy shit, I can keep lifting it. Great movie. Bruce Willis is fucking awesome. Samuel Jackson back in his heyday. What's not to love? And speaking of Bruce Willis, I fucking love Sin City. This was one of those movies I didn't really expect anything from. You know, I'd heard some good things, but when I watched it for myself, I enjoyed everything about this movie. The violence, the comedy, the action, all of it just goes together in one big pile of amazing. And I kind of want to rewatch this now, to be honest. The second one, I don't own it. I probably never will. I never really liked the second movie. Alright, let's pull from over here now. Ghost Rider 2. Yeah. We're gonna put these back here, because I don't even... Yeah, Glass. Really disappointing end. Really disappointing end. In the first 20 or 30 minutes of this movie, I thought we were going somewhere kind of interesting until they all just die. And I'm pretty sure Bruce Willis like drowns in a puddle. It's like what what the fuck is happening? It's yeah, it's bad. Kick-Ass 2, I already told you how I feel about this. They force a romantic angle between him and Hit Girl, and it was just very wrong. She was like 12 in the first movie and only like 16 or 17 in this movie. It just, all of it felt wrong. All of it felt wrong. Where's the other? I guess we'll get to those after, but Avengers Age of Ultron. This was the first time, even at 14, I was like, something's off with this movie. Something ain't vibing, you know? So they're trying to set too much up with actually giving us any payoff. And that's what this whole movie feels like. One big setup with zero payoff. And if you enjoy that, you'll like this movie. The first Avengers, I'll always like this movie. It's got its flaws. It's not perfect. I'm not going to sit here and look you in the eye and say this is the best movie ever made or anything, but it's pure fun escapism from reality. And I still remember seeing this in the theaters and having a really good time. And I missed this version of Hulk, where he was just unhinged rage monster that they'd call in to just destroy everything. That's Hulk for me. And this was better for me in terms of an Avengers cast because it's smaller. You don't have to worry about remembering 25 characters. Thor Ragnarok, I enjoyed this more when I was a teenager, but now what I know of Taika Waititi, and the more he talks and the more he makes these movies, it's just like, he's not funny. The guy's never been funny, and a lot of the jokes in this movie fell flat for me in 2017. They really fall flat for me now. So I enjoy the action stuff in this movie, and I love that scene where, what are you the god of again, brother? And he goes full immigrant song mode. That is great, but the majority of this movie is just not great for me. Thor the Dark World, I haven't seen it since theaters, so yeah, I remember almost nothing about it, and I don't plan on rewatching this anytime soon. I fell asleep briefly and woke up, and I just didn't care. I was like, this movie's shit. Was not good. The first Thor, though, I've always enjoyed. This has always been one that I've kind of rewatched, and I don't really have a reason why, but this to me is the best Thor movie. I really like that we got to see a lot of Asgard, or not a lot, but some. You get to see what Thor is about. You know, I wish we saw more of him in his king mode rather than just the guy on Earth who's a bumsy blah, blah, idiot who's just like the hot guy who's stupid. It's every fucking movie with Chris Hemsworth now. Civil War. This is Captain America's third movie. And it's not even a Captain America movie. You know, they try to shove in Captain America's plot in there while everything else is happening around him, but this does not feel like a Captain America movie. It just feels like Avengers 2.5, because this came out before all the other Endgame and Infinity War. The fight has zero consequence. You knew it going in, but really seeing it with your own eyes, you realize nobody got hurt. Nothing bad happened except for Rhodey got hurt by his own teammate. So yeah, it's kind of a pointless movie in the grand scheme of things. The only thing that I can really say about this that I enjoy a lot is this was the best depiction of Black Panther by far. Everything after this was downhill. It was just, they never recaptured that vibe. Winter Soldier. I like this movie, but people talk about this like it's the best thing ever made, and it's the most basic action movie you'll ever see, where you can predict every single twist and outcome that happens. It's not a great movie by any means, but in Marvel's terms of great, this is pretty good. And I do love that scene where Samuel Jackson's car is getting destroyed and it's down to like 2%, and he just starts going crazy with the turret. It's a good scene, but, you know, again, you just knew what was coming. Everything that happens, it's like, yeah, I could have predicted that. The best Captain America for me, the first one. If they just gave me a little bit more of him, you know, if they turned that montage scene that's like a couple minutes into 25 and 30 minutes of him battling in World War II, my vote would be so unanimous that there wouldn't be a question. But there's a couple things I'd change about this. Other than that, I love seeing Steve Rogers before he's Captain America. I love him as this like happy go-getter who just won't let anything get him down. I love that. It's got a great vibe. The cast is great. And I'm just sad that, you know, this never really got any real finality. You know, like the third Captain America didn't feel like I just watched a trilogy. Iron Man 3, it's the same as a lot of the third movies in these franchises. It's just terrible, man. And Shane Black is just an awful writer and director. He's had a couple decent movies he's written, but his directing is just fucking awful. Awful. Why you'd let this guy take a third movie of your franchise is beyond me. But, you know, they learned their lesson there. This was when Marvel was still sort of experimenting. They would not take these risks anymore. They're playing it too safe now. Back in this day, they were willing to give a director like this his own movie where, you know, even when Sam Raimi directed that Doctor Strange movie, they didn't really let him be Sam Raimi. Iron Man 2, not a good movie. And this was when, you know, they took the comedy and ran with it. This whole movie's just a one big comedy, and they make a joke out of him being an alcoholic, and it's not funny. This whole movie's not good at all. The only real positive was we got Black Widow for the first time, and Scarlett Johansson steals every scene she's in. Other than that, I'm really struggling. Like, Mickey Rourke is such an over-the-top, cheesy villain. Where's my butt? You know, like, it's stupid. They're trying to, trying to one-up this movie, which they just couldn't do, because the first Iron Man was a pretty damn solid movie, all things considered. I liked this movie a lot more back in 2008. Now that we've seen the whole story of Iron Man, at least I think we've seen the story. I'm sure they'll bring him back for 20 movies, because why not? But this was a great starting point. And back in 2008, the CGI in this movie was unrivaled. It was great. I was stunned seeing this in the theaters. It looked great. The cast was amazing. This revitalized Robert Downey Jr. Him and Gwyneth Paltrow have really good chemistry. Two actors I don't like, but they make me like them in this movie because they're really good as their characters. So I wish we got more Iron Man movies like this. Unfortunately, we never did. So at least we get to enjoy the first movie for what it is. The Incredible Hulk. I love this movie, unabashedly. I don't care what anybody says. This is the best version of Hulk we're probably ever going to get in a movie, unfortunately. But he's just angry the whole time. He gets angrier and stronger in the fight at the end. That is Hulk. You know, he might be weaker than his opponent, but the angrier and stronger he gets as that battle goes on, there's no way he's not going to get, you know, the W in the end, which he did. I love Edward Norton as Hulk, and he got the character. If you watch the behind the scenes, he basically took over the movie. He cared so much about the source material. He loved that show with Lou Ferrigno, so he wanted to put his own spin on it. He did a pretty damn good job. It just didn't make money, unfortunately. These two Hulk movies here, they just didn't make money, so it did give the studio a reason to make more of them. It's a real shame, but we'll never get more Hulk movies, I don't think, anyways, unless it's to streaming, which we know the outcome of that. But even this Hulk movie I enjoy. Eric Bana's a pretty damn good Bruce Banner, all things considered. I think a lot of the CGI holds up well. There's a couple of the transformation scenes that even to this day would look pretty damn good. I just think the ending's kind of lackluster, and there's a lot of filler in there, so people just don't like it. Spider-Man trilogy. What can I say that's not been said already? I love these movies. Even the third one, I don't care. We used to complain about multiple villains in a movie, and now that's the commonplace for a comic book movie. There's rarely one. And if there is one villain, shock. But there's usually a villain plus his side geeks that you have to... It's never just one person anymore. This movie was 3 villains, and it felt like 50 at the time. And the first 2 movies are just great. I love the first Spider-Man. For me personally, Spider-Man 2 is just a little overrated. It's a good movie, but it's not as rewatchable. And I'm really tired of superhero movies taking the ability of the powers of the character away. That became a trend for a while with Wolverine and Spider-Man. And even Superman 3, he loses his powers. And Superman 2, he loses his powers. Or is it Superman 2 I'm thinking of? It's Superman 2, where he loses his powers. So, you know, it's the second movie of every franchise. It's like they have to go into that direction, where it's like, well, we'll take his powers away now, because he's so powerful. Even Matrix Reloaded, they nerfed Neo. It's every sequel, they have to nerf the ability of the character so they can make it a little more interesting. But I love the Spider-Man trilogy. I'll always love it. Glad I own it. Now let's get into some more. Deadpool 2. I don't know why I really even own this. I don't think I've watched this once since owning it. I don't really like this movie that much, and little kid Russell completely ruins this movie, but there's a couple funny-ish bits. This was the last Deadpool movie I'll ever own. It's just not been the same without Fox. I know we've only had one movie, but I hated Deadpool and Wolverine. Deadpool 1, again, I don't love it, but it's like decent to throw on every once in a while. It's got a couple good scenes, and really Colossus is what steals the show for me in these movies. Without him, I don't think I'd care. Logan. Now, I didn't like it when I first saw it. Liked it a couple times when I rewatched it, but I don't really care for this movie anymore, especially because of Deadpool and Wolverine. This whole story has been rendered pointless, and there was zero purpose to this whole plot of him dying and us feeling bad, and it's the end of Logan. He's just back, so there's no consequences for anything in film anymore. Everybody's revived after 2 or 3 years. So, it's a decent standalone movie. It's very over the top and sappy and pretentious, so I don't know. I could live without it. The Wolverine is about, I've always said, 60 to 70% solid. I don't love the whole premise of him losing his powers, but I'm at least intrigued because it's Hugh Jackman and he's a really good actor. But the last 30% of this movie is just unwatchable. Maybe not 30, maybe even just 20%, because I love that scene where he gets his powers back and they pull the thing out of him and he goes crazy on some people. That's great. But the whole fight with him and the Transformer at the end, really stupid. The guy just trying to get his youth from him. The whole plot is just convoluted, but it's at least entertaining. This is convoluted 101, but I love it. This is one of my childhood classics where I would just watch this all the time. I collected a lot of the toys surrounding this. I played the game on PS2. This was just a very good movie for me as a 8-year-old when it came out. I'm aware of its flaws. I still am aware of all the problems when I rewatch it. I hate what they did to Deadpool, but at the same time I like it because he shuts the fuck up. So I kind of like that more. I just think that this is a really fun movie, and him and Liv Schreiber, or however you fucking pronounce that guy's name, it's a mouthful. I'm pretty sure it's Liv Schreiber. They have really good chemistry, so I believe them as brothers. X-Men Dark Phoenix, one of the worst movies ever. This was $2 or $3, and I felt like I had to complete my X-Men collection. I saw that in theaters by myself. That's one of the only movies I've ever seen by myself in a movie theater, and that's why. It was so depressing. There was a guy next to me writing notes. He was clearly like a movie reviewer of some kind, and I was reading his notes, and he's like not having fun. That sums it up, because it was not a good movie. X-Men Apocalypse, this was the beginning of the downfall of this franchise. This was cheesy, corny garbage, and I'm surprised it made as much money as it did. If you go back, this was considered a box office bomb, and it still made almost $600 million, and that was 10 years ago. So if this was a box office bomb, how are people considering Superman at $600 million a success in 2025? Come on. And then they get all mad, like, yeah, but man of inflation. We'll talk about Man of Steel when I get to it. X-Men Days of Future Past. I love this movie for what it does, because if you watch it again as an adult, there's virtually no action in this movie. Like, pretty much none. And I'm okay with it, because the story's so good and intriguing and adult for the content. I watched this at 13 and I love this movie. So it just proves that you don't need a big bombastic action scene at the end or in the middle or at any point to make your movie good. You just make it intriguing, you have a good cast of characters that we care about, and wow, what do you know, it's a good movie. But that to me felt like they were reinvigorating X-Men, and then they just never utilized that, unfortunately. X-Men, the full experience, so this is the first 3 plus First Class. I own First Class somewhere else up there. I really like X-Men First Class. That was like a perfect reboot for a franchise that was already dying off at the third movie. Let's be honest. The third movie, it's not very good. I have a guilty pleasure spot for it. I've said that like 100 times. I'm sorry. But it really was a movie I grew up not hating because I was 5 years old. But the first 2 still hold up. Especially X-Men 2. We all know X2 United's a great movie. But the first one even, when I rewatched it, I was like, this is pretty... Aside for some cheesy shots and some CGI that's dated, it's still a pretty damn good action movie. And all things considered, yeah, it's a good comic book movie. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, just not... Guardians of the Galaxy 1, I just don't like James Gunn. I'm going to have a little mini rant here. The guy is a pedophile. Like, if you look at his Twitter feed, I'm sorry, that's not normal to make jokes about children like that. It angers me to my core that that's okay for people. No, he's just kidding around. He's not kidding. He's telling you what he's thinking on his brain and veiling it as a joke, so people will, oh, there's nothing to see here, nothing to see with his jokes that are way over the line, and to me it just shows a lot about the studios and everything in Hollywood, considering they rehired him like this when there's people that are canceled for stuff that is virtually nothing, and this guy's making jokes about children being touched and stuff that I don't need to see or hear or any of that, and it angers me that he's enabled and given this another opportunity that, let's be honest, he's fucking up already because he's not a good director, he's not a good writer, he's a fucking con job of a man. And there's my little rant of the day. And I'm not going to sit here and say Zack Snyder's a good director. He's not. Ant-Man, the first movie, that's just my reaction to a lot of these movies. It's just so forgettable, isn't it? Like, it was fun once when I watched it in 2015, but I never needed to own this. And I probably bought this thinking, like, Ant-Man 2 will come out and it'll be a lot of fun. And it was so bad that I just stopped caring after that, pretty much. That was one of the last solo Marvel movies I ever saw. This was the last solo Marvel movie I ever saw. I only own this because Tobey and Andrew are in this movie. If they weren't, I wouldn't own it. It's pretty simple. This movie's not good. It's fan service 101, but there's a few scenes in this that I enjoyed, thinking back to my childhood, having Doc Ock come back, Green Goblin, Sandman. So, just for that alone, it's some, like, background noise. Like, if I'm making a video or something, you can just throw this in, and yeah. But Tom Holland Spider-Man for me, I'll talk about a little more here because I only own Homecoming and Far From Home. Or No Way Home. I don't own Far From Home. He's just a forgettable character, and he's Iron Boy. Like, he doesn't have any personality of his own. He's just, hi, Tony Stark. What can I do for you, Tony Stark? Can I kiss your ass, Tony Stark? His character's not good. Zendaya's a shitty actress. We're all aware of this now. It took people way too long to realize she was a bad actress who was never pretty. And, yeah. He doesn't really land a punch in this movie, so they make Spider-Man just a complete joke of a human being. Avengers Endgame, biggest letdown ever for me in terms of just, I had all my hopes into this. I avoided spoilers. I did everything I could to enjoy this movie, and I didn't enjoy it at all. I saw it 4 times in theaters because everybody kept asking me to go see it, and it felt like an event. It felt like the last Marvel movie I'd ever see in theaters, which it was. And it probably always will be, unless one comes around in 20 or 30 years where it's like, man, I've had a long time away from this. I need to go check it out. This just killed it for me. I didn't care for any choices they made. I don't like any of the characters anymore at this point. They're all so hateable, especially Thor and his fat ass. Like, I just did not enjoy this. Iron Man dying, I almost celebrated because he's such a douchebag. It's like, you know what? I'm done with this franchise. Infinity War, the perfect background movie. If you're doing something, cleaning, cooking, eating, this is the perfect movie to put on. There's virtually no dialogue that's necessary. It's all action. This is the action movie of the franchise, where it just seems like it's the dialogue is leading you from one scene to the next action bit. It's basically like Revenge of the Sith, where it's almost non-stop. It's like, oh, action, and the next action scene. So if you like that, you'll enjoy Infinity War, but there's not much story to be grabbed from that, but it's a fun little movie. Superman Returns. I loved it as a kid, because this was the childhood Superman of my, first 5-10 years of my life. But it's not a fun movie as an adult, and Brandon Routh, it ain't because you, it ain't because of you, brother. You did a good job as Superman, but yeah, Bryan Singer was not the right choice for this. Superman 2, the Richard Donner cut. I like some of the changes to this, but then they make some changes where, like, some of the dialogue choices are worse. But in the other case of the Richard Lester version, they reshot a lot of scenes with Gene Hackman because he wasn't really in it, so they'd film it with a stunt double and then dub it in with someone else's voice. It didn't even sound like Gene Hackman. So there are some things that I like more about this. Gene Hackman's in this whole movie. He only filmed with Richard Donner, so there's some ups to this version. But I don't know. I don't really like the scene where he turns into Superman in front of Lois in this version. But neither version's great, but this one is worse for me. Superman the movie. Timeless, perfect movie. I don't have a single complaint about this. This, to me, is the best blockbuster comic book movie ever made. I don't think it'll ever get topped. This changed superhero movies forever. Before this, they were not taken seriously. It was the Adam West Batman show, and that's what people thought of. Then this came out, and all of a sudden you could take superheroes serious. So to me, it's funny when people say Superman's cheesy, and without Superman, you wouldn't have your dark, edgy Batman fucking shit that you all enjoy now, where it's like, something's in the way. You wouldn't have that cringy shit without Superman. So I hate to be the bearer of bad news. The Justice League, because this is Joss Whedon's. This movie's so bad that I almost keep it as a reminder of things do get this bad. Oh, look at that. You get up to $8 off your one movie ticket to Aquaman. I never saw Aquaman. Not in theaters, anyways. I watched it once, and I didn't really care for it. Yeah, this movie's fucking awful. So yeah, we'll just leave it at that. Wonder Woman. There was a time in my life when I lied to myself and said this was a fun movie until I realized it was never that good, and it's just women power 101. And then the second movie's just the worst thing ever made. So this no longer has any meaning to me. Again, this felt like the Force Awakens of this franchise, where it's not great, but maybe it'll build to something better. And it just never did. Suicide Squad 2016. Not a good movie. Hear me out. But I saw this a couple times in theaters. Maybe 3 times in theaters. Again, people kept wanting to go see it, so I'd go with them. I have fun with this. I like this one a lot more than the remake with James Gunn. It's just awful. This one at least has some fun comedic scenes. And even, the action's bad, but I still enjoy it for some reason. It's just mostly nostalgia speaking at this point. It's 10 years old, so I have like the high school mindset with this movie. But it's, yeah, I don't know. I like Captain Boomerang as well. Crikey. Batman v Superman. The Ultimate Edition's a lot better. I'm not going to sit here and tell you this movie's good, but at least when you see the full cut of the movie, it makes a little bit more sense. The theatrical release was a mess. We all know that. It's not a great movie, but I really enjoy Henry Cavill in this. He's a good Superman. He really is. And Ben Affleck, he was onto something with Batman. It's kind of a shame we'll never get to see what that something was, because, they canned him, but not that bad. Man of Steel. I don't like this movie that much at all, but the hate this is getting just because of the new Superman is just ridiculous. This is 10 times the movie that this new Superman will ever be. At least this is a real man. This is a guy. You watch clips of that new Superman, it's Superboy, basically, with his dog. And cringy dialogue 101 where, oh gosh, golly gee, they're trying to be like the 30s comic books, and it's just, we're past that point, man. We're past that point. This isn't the Christopher Reeve movies anymore. You need to go in your own direction. This movie did. So I don't really like what they do with the last hour of this movie. At least it's something different. And at least I feel like I'm not being treated like I'm stupid by watching it. It's at least treating me like I'm an adult. The Dark Knight Rises. I never liked this movie. It was always a weak ending to me. And anybody who's got a brain will realize this was the weak link of the trilogy by far. Just the whole breaking his back and then climbing out of a well a couple weeks later will never not make me angry. The Dark Knight. It's a great movie. And Heath Ledger's one of the best performances, of the last 25. Everybody will rave about it. Everyone has the poster on their wall. Everybody knows how good Heath Ledger was in this movie. I just wish they were aware of how good he is in most movies. Every movie he's in, basically. He's one of those actors that it truly is a shame we lost him as young as we did, because he had a lot of stuff to give. And he seemed like a great guy, so it's just a damn shame all the way around. Great performance. Christian Bale was really good in this. I like Harvey Dent. There's a lot to like with this movie. I just think I've always kind of liked Batman Begins just a little bit more. It's got the vibe of Gotham better. I've heard a lot of people say it. They had the more fantastical elements to the Batman universe in this, where it felt like the second one and the third one, it was a lot more like Chicago or New York, where it just felt like any other city. This feels like Gotham. It's grimy, it's gritty, it's gross. I love the way it almost feels like a Tim Burton movie, and I always like the aesthetic of those Tim Burton films. So I like this movie. I rewatch it every once in a while. I gotta probably rewatch it upcoming here. It's been a while. Batman Forever. I want to like this more than I do. I've always felt that way about, even when I was a kid. I would watch the movie and it would finish, and I'd say, well, it was fun, but I kind of wish that I want to watch it again, but I just don't. Jim Carrey is really annoying. Like, he's just not for me, like, anymore as an adult. But he's good as the Riddler. It was a good choice. You know, that really was good casting. I just think Tommy Lee Jones was a terrible Two-Face, so you're never getting a great movie with him as one of the main villains being as bad as he was. It can't go without saying, though, that Val Kilmer is great. Great as Bruce Wayne. I don't know about his Batman, but for me, he's one of the best Bruce Waynes. He just oozes the charisma and cool that you would expect Bruce Wayne, the billionaire, playboy, philanthropist like Iron Man, to be. And he's just like that. So I don't really have any complaints with the casting or anything, but Nicole Kidman's kind of annoying. Batman Returns. This was always my favorite Batman. Again, you don't need big action. This movie doesn't have a lot of huge action set pieces, but it's just a good, dark take. And it's not that the first one, Batman 89, is not dark, but it just feels like this one takes a darker turn. Even though some of those scenes with the Joker in the first movie had me pretty terrified as a kid, especially when he dies there out of the clock tower and his mouth is sitting on the ground, the little teeth, the clicking teeth, and they're laughing. That always stuck in my head. Just memorable movies from my childhood that I wish most people would grow up watching these. But now they'll probably grow up watching Robert Pattinson. We've only got a few movies left. Oh boy, that happened fast, didn't it? Joker. I wouldn't own this if this wasn't $5 when I bought it, brand new. It was like a couple months after the movie came out and it was already $5, so okay, I'll buy it. It's Taxi Driver and King of Comedy mixed together. There's not a single creative thought with this film, and I didn't know that at the time. I'd never seen either movie. But as I've gotten older and I've watched more films, there's not a single creative aspect to this. It's pretty scary how you can get away with copying multiple other movies and then putting the main actor of those movies into your movie and then getting away with it completely. Like Robert De Niro was front and center in Joker, and no one seems to have any questions about that, but okay. But yeah, it's not a great movie, but Joaquin Phoenix was really good as Joker, obviously. And the last one, we got V for Vendetta, which we're living in right now. If you're living in the UK, this came true. I hope you realize this movie was a warning for you all, and you let it happen. So I hope you're proud of yourselves. Watchmen, I never really loved The Watchmen. It's too long for my liking, and there's not enough substance to justify the runtime. And Constantine was always one of my guilty pleasure Keanu Reeves action movies. I don't have any complaints there. Obviously, it's over the top and stupid, but I mean, any movie about the devil, it's probably going to be a little over the top. I just love the whole ending. He's cured of his lung cancer, and very cool. But yeah, V for Vendetta. This right here, V for Vendetta. With the totalitarian state of where we're living, you need to see this once, just so you have a little bit of a prep for the future, because we're heading towards that. So those are my superhero / comic book movies. I hope you enjoyed. I'll be back to talk about other stuff in upcoming videos, so take care. Have a good day.